What would the world be like if humans were not victims but predators? This story about the Thalassians' first encounter with alien races will change your understanding of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Okay, everyone calm down. I have an announcement for you today. Mr. Varlin's classroom quickly became quiet. Usually, when the class started, he immediately got to work. He never announced anything before class unless it was important. Mr. Varlon himself was a member of the Coronian race, about 8 feet tall. His race, although it had eyes positioned like those of predators, was actually herbivorous. It had 2 tall horns and long, thin arms and legs. Each hand had 3 fingers with 1 thumb. He also had hooves, which was not uncommon among many races in the Alcor galaxy. I'm sure you're all aware of the newest race in the Galactic Council, the Thalassians, he said. The students nodded, and some even commented on them, usually saying that they were considered terrifying, devouring inhabitants of the death worlds. You see, all the races in Mr. Varlin's class were from very peaceful planets. There were many animals and plants there, and the weather was very calm for a long time. It was believed that intelligent life could not exist on any other planet. However, this was quickly disproved with the discovery of the Thalassians. When the Thalassians entered the Galactic Empire, they were aptly nicknamed the Deadly Denizens. One of Mr. Varlin's students, Lena, raised her hand. Mr. Varlon, is what they say about the Thalassians true? Are they really from the world of death? Mr. Varlon replied, as far as we understand, the Thalassians are the only intelligent race ever discovered that originated from the world of death. He continued, now can someone explain to me what the world of death is? Another student raised his hand. Death worlds are planets that, before the discovery of the Thalassians, were considered absolutely unsuitable for intelligent life. The death worlds of the lower classes have only a few attributes that give them such a title, such as natural disasters, poisonous vegetation, strong temperature fluctuations, or ferocious predatory animals usually lead to death. On such worlds, there is only one dominant predator or natural disaster. Such worlds are already rare, and one that has multiple factors contributing to its rank is even more rare. That's a short description of the death worlds, yes, Mr. Varlon said. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering why I asked you about this newly discovered race of death dwellers. Because, Mr. Varlon cleared his throat, and the students waited in anticipation. We'll have Thalassians studying at this very institution, and one of them will even join our class. Everyone froze in fear. Each student turned and looked at each other, relaying the same message without even saying a single word. Lena Pyrox was the only carnivore in the class, and everyone was already afraid of her. Damn it, all the tables around her were empty for fear that she might try to eat them. Of course, she had more self-control, but the thought of it was still there. Almost everyone at the school, except the staff, was afraid of predators of this size, but the inhabitants of the death worlds, who added a whole new level of fear to the mix. Moreover, there were so many things they didn't know about them. Finally, Mr. Varlon broke the silence. Since this new student transfer is such a big event for our class and more importantly for our institute as a whole, he said, over the next 40 units, you will get time to do whatever you want. You all know the rules. Don't leave the classroom without permission, do nothing inappropriate, and don't make too much noise. As soon as the 40 units expire, your new classmate will arrive. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. The next 40 units were a time of pure tension. Even Mr. Varlon was a little excited. He hadn't actually even met a Thalassian before. He didn't know anything about their race, planet Elysium, lifestyle, or anything else for that matter. All he knew was that this Thalassian he was about to teach was a species whose very existence had turned everything they knew about intelligent life upside down. However, he caught some comments about Thalassians from students in class. Some said they were omnivores, a type of creature that should only exist in legends. Others said that their brute force alone was enough to overpower any other intelligent species. Although in most cases, Mr. Varlon would dismiss such rumors, this was a special case after all. They were all in the same boat when it came to knowledge about these creatures. While Mr. Varlon was thinking, Lena came up to him. Sir, Lena asked. Oh, Lena, is there something you want to ask me? Yes, sir, it's about an inhabitant of the death world. Do you know anything about them? How do they behave, what do they eat, or their culture? Mr. Varlon sighed. To be honest, he said, I don't know much about them. We have only recently discovered their existence, and we are still learning about them. Lena, I'm just as confused as you and everyone else about these Thalassians. Although, if I were you, I would refrain from using the term death dweller to describe them. They might take offense. Do you think what others are saying is true? Do you know that they are omnivorous or that they are the strongest intelligent species? Lena asked about Mr. Varlin's thoughts for a moment before answering. Well, if you mean the rumors about omnivores, I doubt it very much. All creatures, whether primitive or intelligent, consume either vegetation or meat. There is no evidence to suggest that a creature could have evolved on a planet with enough of both resources to be omnivorous. As for the rumors about the Force, Mr. Varlon paused, deep in thought for a moment. It's possible that your race, the Pitrox, is carnivorous and quite powerful. Perhaps these Thalassians can also be carnivorous. After all, they are from the world of death. There was a knock on the door, and everyone seemed to fall silent. The time came, the door opened, and the director came in. With him was a strange creature that had never been seen before. Everyone, even Mr. Varlon, stared at the Thalassian. He had 2 eyes on the front of his face, as well as a nose and mouth. He also had 2 hands, each with 4 fingers and 1 thumb. From the looks of it, he was about 6 feet tall, with what appeared to be fur on top of his head. Lena, being the only carnivore in the room, noticed that he had a lot of muscles on his body. This was not unusual for her, as pyroxenes also had a lot of muscles. However, the creature's muscles seemed much more solid than any race she had seen. From that alone, she could tell that these Thalassians weren't a joke. The way he walked seemed strange, almost as if he was made for stalking. "Mr. Varlon," said the director. "This is your new student. His name is Zoran." "I see it's an interesting name, Mr. Varlon," he said. "Nice to meet you, Thalassian." "I'm your new teacher, Mr. Varlon. Why don't you introduce yourself to the class, Zoran?" He turned to face the class, and many students were watching him closely. He was certainly not what they expected, but they all knew that appearances could be very deceptive. Then Zoran cleared his throat and spoke in a strangely soothing tone, very similar to the alien's voice. This puzzled Mr. Varlon a bit. "Hello everyone. My name is Zoran. I am from the planet Xenon in the Omega system. I'm 16 cycles old, and I think you'd consider me male." The class started talking among themselves, but Mr. Varlon silenced them with a wave of his hand. "Okay, that's it. As we all know, I'm sure you all want to ask Zoran a lot of questions. We'll do it if it's okay for him," Mr. Varlon said, turning to Zoran, who simply nodded. As soon as Zoran arrived, he seemed very excited, wanting to share information about his people and his planet. Mr. Varlon was also excited, because his job was to share information and educate people, but he rarely learned anything new. "Are you a predator or a herbivore?" one of the students asked. "Actually, Thalassians are omnivorous," Zoran replied. "We eat both plants and meat, and we can survive on a diet limited to only one of these eating styles." The whole class froze in amazement. Even Mr. Varlon couldn't believe his ears. Less than 40 years ago, he had just told Lena that omnivores did not exist, and now one of them was standing in his classroom, introducing himself to the whole class. Another student asked a question that worried everyone in the room. "But how is this possible? No known species comes from a planet that supports enough plant and animal life for them to be omnivorous." Zoran bowed his head and said, "I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Could you rephrase your question?" The class was discussing the topic of death planets, and one of the students said, "I think my planet is the planet of death." Zoran asked Mr. Varlon, "What do you mean?" He explained that the planets of death can be divided into 4 categories: natural disasters, poisonous foliage, unstable temperatures, or a hostile environment for intelligent life. The director listened attentively, as he had already read the reports on Xenon, and knew that Zoran's assessment was incorrect. However, part of him wanted to see everyone's reaction when Zoran revealed the truth about his homeworld. "Mr. Varlon, you said that my planet is the planet of death," Zoran said. "Well, from what you described, it really fits this category, but Xenon also fits all the categories you mentioned." Mr. Varlon replied, "My homeworld Xenon meets all the criteria of what you consider to be a planet of death. On the planet of death, we have predators, poisonous plant life, fickle temperatures, and natural disasters. Each of these things has many manifestations, and all were completely silent." Even Mr. Varlon was shocked. "How is it possible that you Thalassians survived all this and became a cosmic race?" Zoran just shrugged his shoulders. "Yes, why is it abnormal?" Mr. Varlon pulled himself together, albeit with some difficulty. "No, I'm afraid not. Although it looks like we still have a lot to learn about your species and your homeworld, unfortunately, we won't have enough time today." Mr. Varlon turned to the class. Now, remember, everyone, the tasks must be completed by the end of the day. After that, we will begin our lesson on the Thalassian homeworld, Xenon. Zoran finished his sentence. Yes, Xenon, thank you, Mr. Varlon. Yes, thank you, Zoran, he said. Zoran raised an eyebrow at the pronunciation of his name. Of course, the Thalassians pronounced his name. It's strange, but this has never happened before. It seemed as if the man in question, who was 8 feet tall and looked like a cross between an owl and a deer, was struggling to say something. Without a doubt, something must have got mixed up, even with the translators they were wearing. After the bell rang, when classes were over, Zoran was about to leave when Mr. Varlon called out to him. Excuse me, Thalassian, may I speak with you? I would like to discuss some things regarding the next lesson. Zoran turned and walked over to Mr. Varlon. He felt that the conversation was about to take an interesting turn. Everyone in the class almost fainted from the brief description of Xenon. Thalassian, Zoran, I was wondering if you could help me plan my next lesson? Mr. Varlon turned away from Zoran, almost ashamed that he had to ask one of his students to help plan a lesson. Is there anything else you would like to know about Zoran or his home planet? As for my knowledge about Xenon, I really don't know anything. In fact, you're the first Thalassian I've ever met. Zoran said nothing. I'm afraid I do not know how you Thalassians live, about your culture, history, or your planet in general, other than the fact that it seems to meet all the criteria of the galaxy's most dangerous death planet. Zoran pulled up a chair and sat on the other side of Mr. Varlon's desk. I'm afraid we'll have to start from the beginning. Meanwhile, back at our dorm, Lena was sitting on her bed, lost in thought. Everything that the inhabitant of the planet of death said, the way he moved, the way he spoke, was like a combination of all the other creatures in the galaxy, twisted to the fullest. She could only imagine what his strength was, however. She did not feel fear like the others. It might have been partly because of her predatory nature, but part of it was definitely curiosity. She would have plenty of time to find out, as, according to her, she learned after class that only about 30 Thalassians had been transferred to this institution. Oh, things are about to get interesting. By the time Zoran left the classroom, it was the end of the day. Mr. Varlon talked to him all day, trying to learn the basics of Thalassian history. He had no idea how deep and complex it really was. Zoran learned that, unlike the Thalassians, all the other species in the galaxy had united during their dark ages. They had no civil wars, internal strife, or mass genocide. It turned out that the Thalassians were the most violent, intelligent species to date. Zoran himself was walking to his common room with several files uploaded to his school tablet, which he was given before Mr. Varlon, and he exchanged history files. Zoran got the history of every other species in the galaxy, although for obvious reasons there was a large piece of history about the Allerans. While Mr. Varlon was receiving several files on Thalassian history, Zoran finally arrived at his common room. He was surprised at how big it was. His room was furnished with several rooms, a bathroom, a kitchen, and sleeping places. However, he could tell that almost everything inside was imported from Xenon. All the items still had labels and price tags. As soon as he closed the door, he heard a computerized voice announcing, "Gravity simulators are returning to Thalassian living conditions." At that moment, he felt himself getting heavier. However, it was much more natural than what he had been experiencing all day. He even checked it by jumping up. "Yes, this is native gravity," Zoran exclaimed. Another Thalassian came out of the kitchen, holding a bag of chips. "Well, look who it is." When I heard that we were going to be in the same room, I have to admit, I was a little surprised. "Hi, both of you," Tyro said. Zoran and Tyren used to be in the same class. By a happy coincidence, their entire class was transferred to their current school. It turned out that the Galactic Federation didn't want to bother selecting individual students and just took the whole class. "So where have you been all this time, huh?" asked Tyro. "Well," Zoran replied, "my new history teacher was planning a lesson about Xenon, but it turned out that he doesn't know anything about it and wants to learn more." "Yes," Zoran replied, "it looks like the rest of the galaxy is living on a different wavelength. I'm serious, half of these guys don't even know what a seismic earthquake is, and it's one of the most natural phenomena on Xenon. These guys don't even know what it is." He just grinned. "Yeah, it looks like it," Brock said, as his military history teacher nearly fainted from shock when he mentioned the intergalactic war, not to mention all the students who actually fainted. But Caldeb's gym teacher had to pull him out of the throwing game because of the force we used when we threw things. And don't even start talking about the argument that Jenna started with the canteen worker at lunch when she found out that no one was cooking. "It sounds like a terrible day," Zoran said. "What's wrong with gravity? I feel 5 times lighter outside of this room." "You said it yourself, Zoran. These guys are in a different mode than us, and they have the same gravity, which is much weaker than on Xenon. Moreover, even if we compared one of their gravity levels with ours, we would still win by a wide margin. So we are, in fact, the closest to the demons compared to them. On the other hand, the guys at school were able to set up our dorm rooms with an internet portal, although I'd like to know how we managed to make it work halfway across the galaxy. I'm not complaining." Zoran perked up when he heard this. "Thank God. I thought I was going to die of boredom. Well, I'm going to eat something. Tell the others that I'm here." "We'll do something like that," Tyron said before returning to his room to finish his pack of chips. Meanwhile, Mr. Varlon was going through the files that Zoran had given him. He was trying to make sense of what he had read about Xenon. It seemed unreal to him. Giant storms that tore entire buildings off the ground. A mass of rapid seismic tremors from beneath the surface of Xenon that tore apart entire cities. Giant mountains spewing molten magma, which was thought to be found only near the planet's core. These were all classified as natural disasters, and he hadn't even finished reading them yet. He spent less time reading and more time thinking about how the Thalassians had survived in these nightmarish conditions. But Zoran even mentioned that the Thalassians had gone so far as to actively kill their planet and destroy the ecosystem. The very thought of a race that could defeat this was terrifying. Bringing such a world to heel, let alone bringing it to its knees, puzzled Mr. Varlon more than anything he had ever heard. "Still working, Mr. Castro," the director said, entering the room. Mr. Varlon screamed in surprise. He didn't expect anyone to show up at this time. "Director, I wasn't expecting you," Mr. Varlon said in surprise. "I thought I'd stop by to see how you're doing, old friend. I assume you're reviewing the materials for your next lesson." "Yes," said Mr. Varlon. "It's just hard for me to accept all this. These Thalassians, Director. By all indications, they shouldn't exist. I mean the destructive wind vortices that they call tornadoes. Giant mountains that spew deadly poison and magma into the air. I haven't even finished the section on natural disasters yet, and there are still other categories. These Thalassian homeworlds correspond to every factor of the planet of death, and yet here we are." The director said, "To be honest, I jumped when I heard that they eat capsaicin to make their food more exciting. Please tell me you're not serious." Mr. Varlon said, "Seriously, I'm afraid, old friend. The very capsaicin that destroys the digestive systems of all other races in the slightest amounts is consumed by Thalassians in quantities that would fill a whole load of chemical warheads." "Director, are you trying to convince me that these Thalassians are consuming a substance that has been banned in every system due to its possible military use?" Mr. Varlon said, covering his face with his hands. "If you have a bad reaction to this, I should probably tell you that they also consume caffeine daily. You know, the same substance that, when consumed by other species, overloads their systems and causes their entire body to fail." Mr. Varlon looked up at the director, and then abruptly hit his head on the table, groaning. The director chuckled before leaving Mr. Varlon's office. "Don't worry, old friend. Your next lesson with the Thalassian race is not coming soon. In a few days, you'll have plenty of time to read about the Thalassian race. Until then." Mr. Varlon looked up and let out an even louder groan. If the shock of those files didn't kill him, then the Thalassians might just do it. The next day, when Zoran was heading to the gym, his first lesson of the day was physical activity. Although he wasn't really looking forward to it, he reminded himself that he was no longer on Xenon, and that everyone else in the school, with the exception of the other 29 Thalassians, was apparently nothing compared to them. The gravity here was about 5 times lighter, so the most likely outcome was that he would eventually overtake everyone when he got to class. He was met by Cal, Instructor Cooper, and other Alan. He was not the same teacher who taught Caldeb, so he had no idea what was waiting for him. "So you're the powerful species from the planet of death that I've heard so much about. Let me tell you first, buddy. In my gym, you're all equal until proven otherwise. If you want to prove yourself to me, then you have to earn it." Zoran just grinned at Mr. Cooper. "Well, I suppose it will be." Mr. Cooper smiled, enjoying the challenge. Even though everyone who came before him boasted of their strength, they all crumbled under his lessons. "I admit, inhabitant of the planet of death, you have a spirit, but let's see if this spirit matches your muscles." Mr. Cooper turned around and addressed the class. "Okay, that's it. Let's start simple and clear. 1 lap around the gym." Everyone groaned. None of them wanted to run. It will take them all 5 minutes to do it. At least Zoran, on the other hand, was just standing there confused. Just one lap. Mr. Cooper turned to face him. Damn it, yes, now move, get your bodies into action. Dweller of the planet of death, you're in the back. If you think it's that easy, then let's see if you can outrun everyone. Mr. Cooper chuckled inwardly. There was no way he could surpass the rest of the class, because these students had been through a lot. All year up to this point, Zoran had no chance. At least that's what he thought. When everyone started running, Zoran instantly rushed past them. It was like comparing a runner-athlete to a sports car. Mr. Cooper's jaw dropped instantly. If she could, she would have hit the floor and punched it. In less than 20 seconds, Zoran swept through the gym like lightning. Mr. Cooper was in complete shock. The other students stopped running and just stared at him. He didn't even look tired. How did you do that? Zoran simply replied. The gravity of my planet is about 5 times heavier. Even in those conditions, I would have been faster. Mr. Cooper just sat down, and everyone else finished their race. I think I need to sit down, Zoran said, approaching Mr. Cooper. So does my spirit match my muscles? Before Mr. Cooper could answer, the gym doors opened and Tyrone ran in. Sorry I'm late, sir. I got lost trying to find this place, said Tyrone. I told you we were supposed to come here together, Zoran said. Tyro replied. Better late than never. And then what? We were told to run a lap around the gym, said Zoran. Wait, 1 lap. You're kidding, right? I'm afraid not, he replied. Zoran pointed at the other students who had almost reached the halfway point. Oh, they're running so slow, huh? Even on a planet with gravity 5 times weaker, these guys still run slower than a 5-cycle kid. Throughout this conversation, Mr. Cooper just listened. Did these Thalassians really think that his class, his elite athletic class, was slow? He wanted to object, but he had just witnessed the Thalassians' speed. Of course, they would consider such speeds trivial. Well, since we're going to be waiting for a while, Tyro said, grinning at Zoran. Do you want to see who's faster? Zoran couldn't help but grin back. Oh, so you're challenging me to a competition, huh? Well then, the game has begun. As the 2 Thalassians approached the path, Mr. Cooper couldn't help but look with anticipation. He saw the speed. One Thalassian was about to witness 2 of them racing against each other. In the next few minutes, the rest of the class completed their single lap, while the Thalassians raced around the gym, trying to outrun each other. The Thalassians' speed was enough to throw others off balance. They were so fast. By the time the class finished their lap, the Thalassians had already run through the gym almost 50 times. Zoran was clearly holding back as he ran his first lap. The rest of the class behaved in much the same way when Mr. Cooper offered them a new physical challenge. They handled it easily, whether it was lifting weights, light push-ups, or trivial squats. It didn't matter what Mr. Cooper was trying to do. The Thalassians were just too strong. Often, the 2 of them competed with each other, leaving everyone speechless. By the time class ended, Zoran and Tyron were more impressed than ever. It's time for everyone to go to the cafeteria, Zoran said. This competition has whetted my appetite a lot.